Ladies and gentlemen, if I could ask everyone to please come into the sanctuary. For those of you who are joining us via live stream, we welcome you. We are going to start the services for Mr. Louis Genesen momentarily. So if I could ask the family to please come to the first row, and everyone else kindly be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, we welcome those of you who came this morning. At this time, we're going to begin the service for Mr. Louis Genesen. Rabbi Michael Weinberg, Rabbi Evan Moffick will be officiating. We ask those of you that are here to please take a moment to be sure that your cell phones have been turned off. We welcome those of you who are joining us via live stream. This time, Rabbi Weinberg will begin with the sacred ceremony of Kriya, of tearing of the ribbon, and then we'll begin the sacred ceremony.
When a loved one dies, it's almost as if we ourselves have had a brush with death. And so our ancestors developed the ancient custom of Kriya, of tearing a piece of cloth as an outward symbol of the tear in our hearts at a time of grief. So I'm going to ask those of you who have the ribbons, if you please stand in place. We've come together today, my friends, sharing our sorrow to bid a final farewell to Louis Genesen. We've come together to recall the blessings of his life. We've come together to thank God for all that was good and true in his life, and for the many, many precious memories which shall endure. And so now, in this hour of grief, let us incline our ears to listen to the words of the psalmist, words which bring to us the message of God's nearness. Mizmor David, Adonai roi lo echsar, b'naot desher b'tzeini al mei menuchotina aleini nafshi shovev, yancheni b'magalei tzedek lema'an shemo, gam ki elech b'geit salmavet lo ira raki ata imadi, Shiftecha umishantecha hema yenachamuni. Ta'aroch lefanai shulchan neged tzorai. Dishanta v'Hashem en roshi kosi rivaya. Ach tov v'chesed yerdefuni kol yemei chayai. V'shavti bevet Adonai le'orech yamim. If you happen to know the words to the 23rd Psalm in English, or if you've picked up one of these service folders, we could say it together. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
At the rising of the sun and in its going down, we remember them. The rustling of the leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we remember them. The opening of the buds and in the rebirth of spring, we remember them. The beginning of the year and when it ends, we remember Lou Genesen, for he is now a part of us as we remember him. When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember them. When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember them. When we have joy we crave to share, we remember them. When we have decisions that are difficult to make, we remember them. As long as we live, Lou too shall live, for he is now a part of us as we remember him. Now I'd like to invite up several members of the family who will share their memories.
Good morning, welcome. I want to thank everybody for coming to share our celebration of our Papa today. Before we get started with my tribute, Papa probably wouldn't want us to be too serious today. So that in that spirit, I'd like to invite the grandchildren up to the front, and they're going to briefly serenade you with a version of Papa's tuba. So well done. So it is notable that several of those individuals actually make a living in the music industry. So what to say about what we've come to refer to as Papa Lou? And what I wanted to share with you is Papa Lou, what the sun saw. Again, I want to thank you for sharing this tribute to our amazing patriarch, my thoughtful, loving, understated, genuine father. His deep ability to connect with those in his life remains truly inspiring. Our story, of course, must start on the South Side Louis, as my father was often referred to, where I was introduced to Papa's guiding principles during our sacred weekends with his parents, Nanny Esther and Papi Nate. Behind the honored time that he carved out every Saturday and Sunday for Lisa and I, every Saturday and Sunday, he, my grandparents, and extended family, the Averbachs, the Goldberg, Ross family, Donald, Bob, etc., were role modeling a path of values centered on self-accountability, kindness, empathy, and open-mindedness. Our planned activities included model building and kites that gave me the opportunity to learn how to follow instructions, learn patience, manual dexterity, a sense of accomplishment and at times failure, as well as the satisfaction of resiliency. And unbeknownst to me at the time, I was learning from a master mentor who really just lived by example. He also impressed upon me as an early evolving feminist that Lisa, as an example, could do things the same as boys. In the background, I was subliminally being infused with humility, kindness, empathy, patience, love, and respect for others. Sacred as that time was, I was soon to have my Saturday and life view expanded beyond any horizons I could have imagined. That's what Hyde Park does, right? Lisa and I had an arranged marriage to a new family that provided me with another mother and lifelong best friend for both my father and I. We acquired new siblings and grandparents, all of whom durably enriched our lives beyond our wildest expectations. As a city guy, he walked to work almost every day for the last 20 years of his life. He cherished a work environment where he felt fulfilled by his work and treasured lifelong work with Larry and his family and other colleagues. He remained dedicated, however, first and foremost to us, our family. When his day's work was done, it was done and predictably completed, and the rest of that time was focused on us as a family. I, with time, became more aware of his lifelong sacred friendships and secret lunch society, where the Genesen, Kovacs, and Gerby children were being raised over lunch at TIFFs without our knowledge. As we embraced adulthood, I was inspired by his courage and open-mindedness as he vetted Nico, then David, Patty, and my wife Lee. They and their families extended our sense of family and enhanced our worldview. As my life evolved, I was also supported and encouraged to find my path while holding myself accountable and finding the gaps to fill that needed supplementing. We always had weekly phone calls for catch-up and counseling punctuated with soulful visits to mitigate the physical distance. Always, always for me, they enhanced my focus when needed, helped me recognize my life mate when she'd been staring me in the face for many years. With open arms, they embraced Lee and then our children. Papa set a new bar for grandfathering and mentoring well beyond the high expectations that he had set for himself based on what our grandfather, Papi Phil, had done for his grandchildren. Most special for him was to see my wife Lee with the magical symphony that she conducted in our house every day. For my siblings, nieces, rest of our family, and nephews, what we all got was a gift of predictable, focused engagement and love. And as a lover of classical music and opera, Papa appreciated the drama, but loved the symphonies that were directed in all of my siblings' homes, their children and their families. Everyone who's here today shared a unique connection with Papa. I'd like to ask everyone to take a moment and remember walking down the hall to 26A, awaiting two of the most beautiful welcomes that you'll ever receive. Then you're guided into the dining room to sit at the table and connect on matters of personal, professional, or family importance, or hopefully not the Cubs and the Bears. And remember what it was like to connect with Papa and share his engagement of the world and those around him. During these last few years, as he quietly, tenaciously endeavored to navigate what he had accepted were the last chapters of his journey with Judy, Papa's sense of dignity, self-values, priorities, courage, and tenacity, and his heart and soul far outshined his forever elegant exterior and filled our hearts and souls. Over many years, as the end neared, I feared walking out of that door at 26A, probably actually for about 15 or 20 years. This week I've been blessed by a loving and empathic family, as well as a community that Papa's power of connectedness built. Today we can walk out that door with not sadness or fear, but rather with what I've been filled with for the last week, the durable embrace of his robust spirit. If I had to guess, he's enjoying lunch, as he described once, with his brother from another mother, Al Gerby, celebrating over cheese at the salad bar while they speak in punchlines, and he eagerly awaits to be chided by the love of Barbara and Judy, the guiding lights of their life. Thank you.
For those who don't know me, I'm Lou's daughter, Debbie. And we're sad that my brother David can't be here with us today. He's got COVID, so he's home. He's with us in spirit. We're thinking about him. We're thinking about everybody who can't be here, and we're grateful for everybody who is here. My brother David and I first met Papa Lou in November 1966. Our first dad, Stan, had died some months before, after a long illness. Our beautiful mom, Judy, was a young widow raising a 12-year-old, me, and a 14-year-old, David. Lou was raising Lisa, who was then 10, and Mark, who was 7, maybe you were 9. So there they were, two parents with two families, and then they found each other, and basically that was it. Once they found each other, everything else flowed from that. Lou and Judy's best friend, Dr. Al Gerby, connected them. He knew they were meant for each other. He asked Lou to escort Judy to a dinner party at his house, and so began a love story that lasted more than 56 years, up to the very last time that Lou came for his daily visit to Judy just a couple of weeks ago. Hard to believe. Lou and Judy always promised each other they would never be separated, and really, they never were, though recently, Judy's need for additional care meant they could not live physically in the same place. They did the next best thing, spending time together every single day. Every morning at the exact same time, Lou would show up at Judy's room announcing, "Your prince is here!" And he would give her a kiss. And he would relish the beautiful smile she gave him in return. She is still absolutely beautiful. Every visit was another link in the long and deep connection between them. They renewed the vows of their marriage and their love every single day. What can I say about a man who chose to marry a woman with 2 teenagers, along with Lisa and Mark? That can't have been easy, becoming our parent pretty suddenly. What did that man do next? He adopted us. He never wanted us to be without a father again, and we never were. And he and Judy saw to it that the family they made together, 2 parents and 4 children, were perfectly blended from the first day. No step this, step that, brothers and sisters. And I think that we demonstrated that in force in the last week of Lou's life when we came together in a vigil that lasted as many hours a day as the ICU would allow us to be together. And I will never forget my gratitude, Mark, towards you for your guidance to all of us in that last week. You really helped us all. We all helped each other, but I will always be grateful to you for the guidance and leadership you showed us. Lou was honest, hardworking, brilliant, thoughtful, curious, successful, and opinionated. Though he was well known as a storyteller, he was just as good at listening to anything that any of us kids needed to tell him. And later, his 7 grandkids and their wonderful spouses, except for you, William. What? Come on. And later still, his 5 great-grandkids. He was so thrilled for all these little people that are now filling our family with the future. He loved to coach all of us as we established our careers, teaching us how to see around corners in countless situations. Lou was a perfect papa, as his grandchildren will certainly tell you. He was a very important part of each of their lives, even the 4 who grew up quite far away from Chicago. I just was going through a big box of photographs yesterday, in Lou's apartment, dividing them up for all of us to share. I cannot believe how many pictures there are of his time with you, William, and Emma, and Sarah and Lucy, even though we didn't all live together. Lou was a feminist, as Mark mentioned. He was the loudest cheerleader for all of Judy's professional achievements. He loved to recount with immense pride what it was like to watch her lead a convention session of thousands of law librarians. And for both of his daughters and all his granddaughters, he took intense interest in our professional opportunities, always available to offer wise advice if we hit bumps along the way. Lou was immensely proud of his successful career, and Larry, his long partnership with you, very proud. From the earliest days at the bank on the South Side to his perfect retirement upon the completion of the sale of Humiston Keeling, where he had served as CFO for many years. Lou was a role model for healthy eating and physical fitness. Having spent a long time in bed with rheumatic fever as a teenager, he never took his good health for granted. That was probably the secret to how he made it to 96 with very, very few days of illness. He had just enthusiastically started going to the gym in the past few months and was very proud of the praise of his trainers. When he was hospitalized at the end, it was his first time in 46 years. No wonder we thought he was immortal. Lou and Judy were adventurous travelers. The memories of their 40 trips to Europe, each one featuring a stay in Paris, sustained them both, and then him, in the quieter, later years. My husband Nico and I took a trip to Paris this fall, following in their footsteps and visiting the places that they loved, where they had made something of a second home. Lou couldn't wait to hear every detail of that trip when we got back and to look at pictures of their neighborhood near Luxembourg Gardens. We all wished he and his lady could have walked in those streets one last time. It's a real blessing in a close relationship if there is a chance to make sure nothing is left unsaid. That is the case in my connection with Papa Lou. I do not think anything was left unsaid between us. I will always remember what he told me and what he taught me. I will miss Papa every day, I think we all will. His loving kindness, his wit, his support, his enthusiasm, there will never be another like him. His stories and their meaning helped him share parts of himself with all of us who loved him. He showed us how to love each other and how to value ourselves. I have a card at home that Papa sent me once some years ago. In it, he wrote simply, "Thank you for being my daughter." I'm the one who's thankful, Lou. Thank you for being my father.
Only because the people on the live stream will hear you.
Oh, it's the live stream. Well, I figured everybody here would just seeing a box talking. I'm Lisa, Lou's first child and middle child. I became a photographer because I can't read and write, and I was not going to speak today. But when my brother came down with COVID, I offered to read his remarks. So these are his words. I really do wish I could be with you all. COVID doesn't just invade your body, it invades your life. This reminds me of Lou's heroic bout with rheumatic fever as a teenager, when he basically had to stay in bed for so long he must have missed so many events and celebrations. His very bland diet usually involved plain chicken, which is why for the rest of his life he absolutely hated chicken. If he were here, he'd say something about this damn disease and tell us, just make the best of it. And so I am with you all virtually on the live stream. It's kind of a miracle, so many people watching who could not be able to experience this, like David Rubin, who just had surgery in California, Lou's nieces, Rana in Cleveland, recovering from an illness, and Iris in Israel with her family. Our dear friend Kathy Silvern, who is watching from Portugal, so this truly is a worldwide event. We are all in touch because we all love Lou. And if you are on live stream and have time to stay afterwards to share some memories of Lou, please join David for Zoom Shiva. The link will be announced at the end of the service. This is a memorial, and in particular, I'll remember several things about Papa. First, his sharp, delightful sense of humor, the unforgettable way he'd tell a Myron Cohn story, the phone conversations, especially during these last few years, when we would ask, "How are you, Lou?" And he'd reply, "Surviving." Even a couple of weeks ago, when we had to rush him to Northwestern because the congestion in his lungs was too much, he did not lose his wit. In the ambulance, the paramedic said I could sit across from him. And I said, "Lou, this is quite a ride. I feel like I'm in first class." He said, "Wait till you get the bill." Another is the way Lou felt about work. He used to say that any job, there was 90% you hated, and that's what you're paid for. But there's 10% that you love, and that you would do for nothing. But he actually loved more than 10%. Work was an enormous pride for Lou, and rightfully so. He often recalled the satisfaction he got from his years at Humiston Keeling, and in particular, his first job at the South Shore Bank, where his mentors there were life-changing. His advice was life-changing for all of us and the grandkids, too. When we would struggle professionally, he would urge us on with optimism, reinforcing the strengths he knew were inside of us. And when we ultimately found our purpose in life, he felt the pride was so rewarding because he knew it was hard-earned. Most of all, I'll remember Lou for the amazing husband and father he was, and for all his unconditional love for all of us. His 55 years with Judy was the personification of the idea of Beshert, something that was destined to be. Even in these last years, their love touched everyone in LeClaire. His presence enters every day was the story of the 13th floor. He so deeply loved all the people his kids married. Nico, David, Patty, Lee, none of them were raised Jewish, and you can imagine that for someone with his observant Jewish upbringing, that wasn't always easy. But we watched how his love for them as individuals changed any preconceptions he held. He had so much pride in the religious pathways we all took. In particular, when he joined my family at Old St. Pat's, he was amazed at how the Catholic Church could be so welcoming and embracing of Jewish families. He and Judy were so proud to say the blessings and light the candles at Father John Cusack's Holy Thursday services at the Standard Club. One of our most treasured Christmas ornaments is from a business trip Lou took to Nashville. Merry Christmas from the Grand Ole Opry. It was a small gesture that spoke volumes. He was telling us that with that ornament that he welcomed our Christmas celebrations into his life. It was yet another way he said, "I'm proud of the family you are forming." He was truly Papa Lou. In fact, even in the midst of the week at the ICU, as he drifted in and out of consciousness, when a doctor asked him his name, he replied, "Papa Lou." For all the consternations of the four of us gave him growing up, his ultimate answer was one of his favorite expressions, "Go have children, and then you'll know." Fortunately, all four of our families were blessed with beautiful kids, and we're so glad members of the next generation could be here today. Truly, his grandchildren, and now his great-grandchildren, were his greatest source of pride. We recently gave him a digital photo frame so all of us could send photos from the family. In the mornings at breakfast, he'd just become transfixed with these hundreds of images. How did this all happen, he would wonder. I just started out as one person, and now look at this, and they're all smiling. Papa Lou, if you were here today at this celebration of your amazing 96 years, and we asked you what you thought of the funeral, you'd say, "It was pretty good, but a little too long." But please indulge us for some extra time to hear from some of the people whose lives you touched so beautifully. And as we mark your yahrzeit during Thanksgivings to come, we will remember with so much gratitude all the ways you fed, sustained, and blessed us. Brother David, we're heartbroken you're not with us. Consternation, we said no big words.
I meant to add something in my talk, which is how much this synagogue meant to Lou and to Judy. And one of the reasons they chose to join the synagogue when it was moving to this neighborhood, even before it moved to this neighborhood, was because of its open-hearted embrace of families of every type of construct. They always felt welcome here, all of our family has always felt so welcome here, and they were very, very proud to be part of building this synagogue. So I just wanted to make sure that we also said that while we're in this sanctuary.
Grandkids. Today, we are here celebrating and remembering what a gift Papa Lou was. Of course, there's lots to be said for the solace we can take as we marvel at Lou's robust 96 years of life. We can rejoice that he was blessed with so many years and recognize what a blessing it was in all of our lives. But then there are those moments where we have to be blunt to ourselves and say he's also physically not here with us. And for us cousins, this is a sadness we've never had to know. All of us stand here today as fully formed adults, more or less. And until now, Papa has been there for each and every one of us from the moment we were born. And over those years, we would come to know that among his many magnanimous traits was his penchant for giving great gifts, whether they were trinkets from trips around the world, shopping jaunts down Michigan Avenue, the legendary 10th birthday trips, handcrafted ships and dollhouses, or a thoughtful card from afar. He expressed his love through the joy of gift-giving time and time again. But there was one gift Papa gave, and he gave it freely, that needed no occasion, that never expired, nor could ever be lost, and was given to each and every one of us grandkids. And that was the gift. That was his genuine belief in and encouragement to pursue whatever our hearts were most passionate about throughout our lives. If there was a dance or piano recital, a skating competition, or tennis tournament, and he could be there, you know he would. If he could watch from afar, you knew he would. And most importantly, if you wanted to talk his ear off about that passion, he wanted to hear every word of what you had to say. Isn't that remarkable? He'd say with the most genuine curiosity. Personally, when I was finding my way as an adult, working as a musician, and hoping to add a singing voice to my arsenal of skills, and feeling a little raw about my less than refined voice, he pulled me aside after one performance and told me to never lose that softness in your voice. It was one of the first times anyone had encouraged me to keep going as a singer, and I always carry that moment with me in everything I do. I only see it now with the clarity of retrospect that he was once again giving me a great gift from his generous and loving heart. So I say for myself, and on behalf of all of us cousins, we thank you, Papa. Thank you for the countless gifts and the true treasure that you are in all of our lives.
I think what I'm about to say falls very much in line with what Jack said. I think the most beautiful thing to me about Papa was that he saw people. From an early age, I felt Papa could see me and those around me with astounding clarity. But he didn't just observe, he appreciated. Like so many things in his life, Papa appreciated our uniqueness, and he helped us to value what's special in ourselves, in our family, and in others. I entered Papa's life around his retirement, and so I had the privilege of extra time with him during his wisest years. As a child, his generosity and love filled me with a sense of belonging only a grandfather can give. As I grew older, his love never wavered. Instead, it became more complex. When I needed wisdom navigating the tempest of adulthood for the first time, his voice soothed the stormy waters. His kindness brought me peace, and his pragmatism brought me clarity. He could see in me, in each of my cousins, and in each and every one of us here today, what makes us human, our strengths and our flaws, our hopes and our fears, and he gave me the courage to do the same. I will always carry in my heart an openness, a fondness for the unique, and an appreciation for my family and for the world that he instilled in me. As Aunt Debbie said, he was a perfect Papa. Thank you.
Such powerful, heartfelt words, and words from the heart enter into the heart. And in this week's Torah reading, it's a wonderful story where Jacob patriarch, goes to a well, and there's shepherds at the well, and they're trying to move a stone that's on top of the well, and they can't do it. All the shepherds working together, they can't do it. But then Jacob goes up to the well, and he simply pushes the rock away and opens the well free-flowing. And the biblical commentators said, did he have some sort of superhuman strength that he could push the rock off the well so easily? And they said, no. He didn't have superhuman physical strength. He simply had the inner strength, the inner reserves, a strength, a power within himself that allowed him to do extraordinary things. He had a quiet nobility, a caring, a discipline that let him do what seemed to be impossible. And as I read that Torah portion, I thought of Lou and the extraordinary inner strength and dignity and character that he had. What an extraordinary person. I mean, we've heard about the way he loved and cherished his family, the way he visited Judy over the last few years every morning. There was this inner strength that he had that simply, I think probably all of us aspire to that. But it was a strength he had his whole life. As members of the family told me, Lou had a good grounding, deeply shaped by his Judaism, deeply shaped by his faith growing up. He grew up during the Depression, and he was lucky that his father had a job, and his father imparted to him that strong work ethic that carried him throughout his life. He even kept kosher as a child, ended up going to school, and as we also heard, spent a year and a half in bed with rheumatic fever that developed in him an extraordinary ability to build models. And I also believe a love of chicken that haunted him the rest of his life. He was not only deeply grounded in Judaism, but he was deeply grounded in an open-mindedness that changed, we all have certain core convictions we have in childhood, and then we hope that we are open and evolving through life. And Lou set that model for what's possible. He was also just an extraordinarily kind, generous, also very well-dressed human being. That always struck me about, he was always just beautifully presented himself. And I have such wonderful memories of when I was a young rabbi here and didn't have kids yet, and Lou and Judy took my wife Arian out to Yoshi's and in Lincoln Park, and just had a wonderful time, and could just tell what a extraordinarily peaceful, loving, incredible person he was. And then our journey continued as we would run into each other at interfaith events where he would be there, and just the always learning, always growing, always interested in speaking and knowing what's happening with me and my family. That was the kind of generosity and spirit that Lou brought to the world. And in Jewish tradition, there is this beautiful story told. It's about two ships, and they're each near land. One of the ships is going into the harbor, and the other is going out from it. And everyone is cheering the outgoing ship, giving it a wonderful send-off. But the incoming ship is scarcely noticed. A wise man standing nearby chastised the people's reactions. "Rejoice not," he said, "over the ship that is setting out to sea. For you know not what destiny awaits it, what storms it may encounter, what dangers lurk before it. Rejoice rather over the ship that has reached port safely, and brought back all its passengers in peace. It is the way of the world that when a human being is born, everyone rejoices. But when a loved one dies, we all feel sorrow. According to this story, we can also struggle to see it the opposite way. Nobody knows what awaits the developing child on its journey through life. But when a person has lived well and lived a full life, all can take comfort in the knowledge that he has completed his journey successfully. Lou Genesen made such a successful journey through life. It was a journey blessed by Judy and Lisa and David and Mark and Lee and David and Patty and Deborah and Nico and Sarah and Lucy and Jack and Claire and Kelly and Emma and William. I hope I'm not missing anybody. And great-grandchildren. I see a couple of them here. We say the words when we think of Lou and the extraordinary legacy that he leaves. We say those ancient words, Zecher Tzadik Vivracha. May the memory of the righteous endure among us as an everlasting blessing. God, you give us loved ones, and you make them the strength of our life and the light of our eyes. They depart and leave us bereft on a lonely way, but you are the living fountain from which our healing flows. To you, the stricken look for comfort and the sorrow-laden for consolation. God, we see life as through windows that open on eternity. We see that love endures and the soul endures, as you, O God, endure forever. We see that the years are more than grass that withers, more than flowers that fade. They weave a timeless pattern in a world that is a dwelling place of your love and your presence. I'd ask you now, if you're comfortably able, to please rise as we say the words of the El Mole Rachamim. El Mole Rachamim, Shochen Bamromim, Hamtsei Menucha Nechona Tachar Shechinaim, Kidoshim V'Techorim, Kazorhar Ha'akim Asirim, and Nishmat Laban, Shohalach Le'olamo. Baal HaRachamim Yasirehu Beseter Kanafav Le'olamim, Vayitror B'Tur Chaim Et Nishmato, Adonai Hu Nachalato Vayanuach Bashalom Amishkavo V'Nomar, Amen. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to our beloved husband, father, grandfather, great-grandfather, loved one, friend, Lou Genesen, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let him find refuge in the shadow of your wings, and may his soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. For you, the eternal God, are his inheritance. May he rest in peace, and let us all say, Amen.
Early or late, all must answer the summons to return to the source of being. For we lose our hold on life when our time has come, as the leaf falls from the bough when the day is done. The deeds of the righteous enrich us all, as the fallen leaf enriches the soil beneath it. The dust returns to the earth. The spirit lives on with God. Like the stars by day, our beloved dead are not seen by mortal eyes, yet they shine on forever. Theirs is eternal peace. Let us be thankful then for the companionship that continues in a love stronger than death. Sanctifying the name of God, we honor Lou's memory with the hallowed words of Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah. V'yalma divrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei. B'chayei chon u'v'yomei chon u'v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael. B'agala u'v'zman kariv imru Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam yomei omaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei d'kudsha b'richo. לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דאמירן ויאמר ויאמרו אמן. יהי שלום הרבה מן שמיים וחיים, עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום, עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן.
Ladies and gentlemen, immediately concluding my announcements, the family will be together for a luncheon on the lower level of Sinai Congregation. Everyone is invited. Then Saturday at 5:30 p.m. with an evening service at 7 p.m., the family will be together at the Lisa Genesen residence at 2912 North Commonwealth Avenue in Chicago. There is a parking lot on the north side of Surf Street between Sheridan and Commonwealth. Traffic may be heavy due to traffic may be heavy in the area due to zoo lights. That information is on the service folder. Also, memorial contributions to the University of Southern California would be appreciated. That information is also on the service folder. For those of you who are joining us online, you can find the information about Shiva on our website. And for those who are attending that want to be part of a virtual Shiva hosted by David Kovacs, unfortunately he could not be here due to COVID, please go to the next link on our website. So there was a link for this service. Upon the conclusion of this service, there'll be another link for an online Shiva with him. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time I invite everyone to please rise and stand in place as we escort the family from the sanctuary. They will be going downstairs. Please give them just a few moments to gather themselves, to have a quick little nosh, and then they can spend time with you. Thank you.